Hello, hello, everybody. It's Dr. Rick Wallace, checking in on you as I promised in the video on was it Sunday or Monday, that I would be back for several different installments of this series, Survive or Thrive: Shifting Paradigms. And what I wanted to do was take the time out and kind of build these modular philosophies, ideas, or concepts that were digestible, for people who are looking to engage life at a higher level, to experience something different. And instead of trying to make one big long video and explain it all, because what we're talking about is really a culmination of literally close to 25, 26 years of studying and developing myself and experiencing life myself on a number of different levels to reach this particular point. I've spent a lot of time refining what I've learned and what I've now called the Visionetics concept through the Visionetics Institute. And it is a combination of a number of different things, including the sciences of psychology, which includes psychology, cognitive therapy, cognitive concepts, psycho-cybernetics. Then there's the neurosciences, which play a major role, from neuro-linguistic programming, neurological remapping, the understanding of neuroplasticity. Then there are the understanding of the universal laws that are set into place and governance by the Almighty, and a number of different things. And all of these culminate into what I do, not to mention a major influence by quantum physics, through quantum physics. And I'm going to take you through these in a manner in that you can understand them and you can kind of get an idea. The bottom line is, there's this question that I'm often asked, and my response is always the same. And so I'm going to start this particular segment, which will probably be roughly, definitely less than 30 minutes, because I don't want them to be long. There will be another one on Friday, and then we'll finish it out on Saturday. But what I want to do is start with this question that I'm always asked: why is it that some people find themselves always on the side of success, and others find themselves consistently lacking or not experiencing success in any type of consistent way? There may be a couple of lights that flash over the course of their life, but they never are able to sustain it. And why is that? And is it because certain people are just simply more gifted? Is it because certain people are more exposed and have better resources? Is it because certain people get help and other people don't? And the truth of the matter is, it boils down to this. And while it's going to sound simple in the beginning, hopefully by the time you watch the series of videos, you'll understand that it is so precise that if, when done right and when engaged, it's going to produce results. Any consistent, while certain people will experience something once or twice, good or bad, when you begin to consistently experience anything, good or bad, it's based off of patterns. It's based off of thoughts and behaviors. Patterns can be seen as habits or rituals, things that you can do consistently. Well, what we know is there's this universal law called the law of cause and effect, meaning that everything that you experience has a cause. Nothing happens in a vacuum. What does that mean? That means that if anything you're experiencing, that was a causality. There was something that created it. And what I teach is a principle that's been around for thousands of years. And it's that as a man thinks, so is he. Your thoughts are the seeds of your destiny. What you think consistently works to either produce something positive or something negative. If you're functioning and you're consistently thinking negative, you're going to produce negative things. And while it works on a number of different levels to make it happen, it's that simple. Your thoughts are the seeds of your destiny. You're reaping the consequences and circumstances now of thoughts you thought in the past that created ideas, that created behaviors, that became habits, that became rituals, that produced situations in which you're now dealing with situations. Your decisions you make are going to come back to you. Those decisions are impacted by your thoughts. Your thoughts develop into habits and ideas. Those thoughts are controlled by memories that have interpretations associated with them. And we call memories that have interpretations associated with them beliefs. Prime example, one of the best I can ever use is, because I see it a lot, your first encounter with a dog. You're a little toddler. You're basically toddling around, barely walking. The dog comes up to you, happy to see you, and bumps you and knocks you down. How you see that before you can ever speak, how you interpret that experience with that dog is going to determine how you see dogs from that point on. If you're that kid that sets up because your mom immediately comes over and loves on the dog, and you see your mom interacting with the dog in a positive way, then you say, okay, that was a fun thing. The dog knocked me down. That must be fun. Or you look at it and mom screams and everybody loses their mind because they're afraid you're hurt or scared. Then you're liable to be scared, and you're liable to interpret that dogs are dangerous. Now, you can't even articulate that at the time, but your mind is developing a situation in which it's establishing a belief that will literally be stored physically. Now, there's a difference between the mind and the brain. The mind is immaterial. It's a part of your existence. It exists consistently because it's a part of your soul. It's who you are. The body is simply a vessel, and one of the most powerful and unbelievable machines within this vessel is the brain. The brain is a material thing. It is not the mind. It is what the mind uses to achieve certain things. So look at the brain as being the computer. Look at your mind as being the user. There are a number of different things that determine what you are able to get out of your computer. First of all, when you first buy your computer, there are certain softwares that you can download. There are certain systems that you can upload into your computer or download into your computer that allow you to do things that are highly specific. If you're going to be a graphics person, you're going to have to download certain graphics. If you're going to use your computer to create music and music productions, you're going to need to download certain softwares that allow you to do that. If you want to do that without first downloading what you want into the system, you can't. Now, so in other words, what is that saying? What you feed your brain, what you feed your mind, is being processed by your brain, and it's literally developing memories and storing that information away in what is known as synaptic connections. These synaptic connections are made to be accessed when you get ready to go through or experience something associated with that memory. So for instance, if you've got a mindset that dogs are dangerous based on an interpretation from an event years ago, and now a dog walks up on you, you're going to panic, you're going to run, you're going to scream, you're going to do everything what people who are afraid of dogs do. Now, that's never going to change until you go back and deal with that initial interpretation. Until you deal with that initial belief about dogs, you'll never be able to engage a dog with comfort. You may train yourself to deal with the comfort, but the discomfort is still there. The way that you get rid of the discomfort is to go back and look at, reevaluate, and establish a new interpretation of the event. And now you develop that new idea, that new belief, that new memory, that new interpretation in an entirely different synaptic connection. And what you do is you refuse to entertain the old idea, the old interpretation, while one synaptic connection is developing and getting stronger and becoming an influencing force in how you interpret and see certain situations in that moment, the other one is dying off. At a certain point, the new belief becomes the power. The old belief becomes dead, and now you start to function with dogs differently. Every area of your life functions the same way. If you have a belief about money based on growing up in an impoverished environment, if you have a belief about relationships because your parents divorced early, or all you saw your parents do was arguing, so you have this mindset about relationships, those beliefs are impacting how well you're able to manage relationships. You have to understand that you've been given this unbelievable gift that no other species on this planet has. That gift is the ability to evaluate your situation, your personal reality, and if you don't like it, change it. Now, up until maybe 15 or 20 years ago, that was this belief that after about maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years old, that the vast majority of who you are as a person in the development of your brain capacity, these neurological connectors and these unbelievable pathways, there are millions, billions of them that are developed in the brain that determine who you are, how you respond, whether you're going to be quick-tempered, whether you're going to be real scary, whether you're going to be highly aggressive, motivated. All these things are developed by the time you're 4. That used to be the school of thought. That used to be, okay, once you're 4 or 5, you're pretty much who you're going to be. Now, you can enhance certain things, you can develop certain strengths, and you can try to starve certain other areas, but that's who you're going to be. But what we find out now is that's this unbelievable word that makes my job so much fun. It's called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity says that you can, over the course of your life, your entire life, you're consistently rewiring and reprogramming your brain and becoming something different based on new experiences, new exposures, new ideas, new concepts. So you're never locked into being who you used to be. And then one of the things I tell my clients all the time is you have to stop taking your past failures into your new experiences. Your past failures have a purpose. Your past failures should teach you, number 1, what not to do. Number 2, it should prepare you and strengthen you because you're going to have difficult moments. But what you got to understand is how you interpret your moments. Most people who experience success on a regular basis is not because they never fail. First of all, everybody experiences failure at some point. It's how you interpret the failure. A person who is consistently successful is not looking at this momentary failure as anything but that, a momentary event in life that will strengthen me, that will empower me, that will enlighten me, that will prepare me, that will propel me into being something better. I'm going to learn from this experience and then treat it as that, an event, an experience, and then move forward. I don't take the feeling or the emotional letdown of the failure into the new experience. That's how you love. If you take your hurt from the past relationship into the new relationship, that relationship is doomed to fail. You have to take the hurt, learn from the hurt, learn what happened in that situation. Here's the thing. You can't be a victim. You have to own your life. What does that mean? Does it mean that nobody has done anything wrong to you? Does it mean that there weren't times that people did things to you that they shouldn't have done? Absolutely not. There are times that people are going to do things to you. There are times that people are going to, but what you've got to do is own your moment, own your situation. That's how you stop being a victim. When you determine in your life that life isn't happening to you, it's responding to you, you start to understand how to create situations in which life responds in a positive and forceful manner on your behalf instead of against you. In other words, I can go back and I can look at situations in which I was in relationships that the relationships didn't work. And I can say, okay, I walked away from the relationship because of this, because of this, because of this. And I can sit up and say I was right for walking away because that person literally did that to me. But then that makes me a victim if I only see that. What I have to see is, okay, the only common denominator in my life, when I look back over every event, good and bad, the only common denominator in my life is me. There's not a situation where any other person in my life, in my world, any human, has been present in every situation. So the only common denominator is me. Therefore, I have to take a certain ownership of what has happened in my life. Even the people who have harmed me, especially after a certain age. Now, when I'm a child, I have less control over my environment, who's around me, who's going to do whatever. That's when my parents are supposed to have my back. That's when they're supposed to protect me. But we find in life that parents fail too. But at a certain point, I'm going to have to start owning even the fact that my parents failed me. I've got to own the fact that it's no longer their responsibility to look after me, and I have to take ownership into my thing, into my well-being, into my future, into my destiny. But when I come into a certain area of cognitive awareness of who I am as a person, It's my responsibility to protect myself. So when I look up and I see someone did something to me, I allowed them to get close enough to do that. What was going on with me that I did not see who they were? Because what I can tell you is within seconds of meeting a person, there's something about that person that tells you who they are. If you don't believe me, read the book Blink. We call it discernment. We call it a bunch of different things. But God, in the unbelievable wisdom that he has when he designed us, gave us this ability to immediately sense danger. It's in the reptilian part of the brain, that first part of the brain that's highly instinctive. It's the part that allows us to survive. It's there. But we've been trained and conditioned to overlook it. One of the case studies in the book Blink involves this woman in which she's married to this guy for over 5 years, something like that, about 5 years, and he cheats on her. And she consistently goes over and over and over again, I never saw it coming. He was just an unbelievable, great husband. He did everything, blah, blah, blah. He was the quintessential husband. I never saw it coming. And what happens is the psychologist sits down with her and he begins to slowly peel back the layers, moving backwards from the time she found out he was cheating on back through the marriage, and slowly, while building trust and distracting her, so where she's just openly speaking what was going on at particular times, and he's pulling these memories out. Then he gets back to the very day she met him, and here comes this phrase: when I first met him, I didn't like him. It was something about him. But here comes the but. That but has gotten so many of us in trouble in our lives. The but, you know what the but was for her? He checked off all these items on this list she had created. She stopped trusting the inner her, that part that's a part of her design, and she started using cultural and societal measuring mechanisms to determine whether he was worthy of her time. He had a great job. He was well established. He had his own home, a nice car. He was mannerable. She completely ignored that feeling that told her to get away. And it took her 5 years to find out, but what she doesn't know is what he may have been doing before she caught it. See, that particular thing is just a part of this whole process of our being. This is how powerful we are. I tell people all the time, another reason why people fail is they don't understand the power of their mind to create and the power of their tongue to begin the manifestation process of what they create. A lot of Christians and people from other religions as well will talk about the power of the tongue, talk about the power of speech, talk about the power of thoughts, and yet not truly understand just how integral they are in the everyday happenings of their life. When you sit up and you are engaging an idea and you emit that idea and you speak it, you set things in motion. First, it's already in motion the moment you think it. Now, when you speak it, you reinforce it to the mind, because now not only do you speak it, you hear yourself speaking it. So it re-enters your gate and reinforces the thought. That's the power of re-speaking. That's why we teach our clients to do positive affirmations, but affirmations in and of themselves are not enough. But we understand that we've got something we're building on. But here goes. Most people use what should be used for creation, your speech, to create excuses. I tell people all the time, there are one or two things at the end of life. You're going to have one or two things at the end of life. You're going to have results, or you're going to have reasons. See, the reasons are really excuses. See, winners, people who are successful, don't make excuses. They make adjustments. Listen again. They weren't perfect. They didn't get it right the first time. They simply stepped out and believed that they could, and they make adjustments. They sit up and see a mistake that they made. They make an adjustment. The people who are most successful are the people who make the same mistake the least amount of times. I see I made this mistake. I'm not going to do that again. I see that I didn't do this exactly how it should have been done. I'll do it better next time. That is a part of the progressive process. Another part of the process, and I'm getting a little beside of myself, but I want to touch this. Where are we at? We're 20 minutes in. Okay, I'm going to start winding this down, but I'm going to touch this. One of the biggest mistakes we make in the pursuit of success, and success to me, I found when I was a little kid, I used to listen to these albums of Earl Nightingale. It was literally on wax. You put the album on, and Earl's talking. And I didn't know, how much of an impact that would have, because from Earl Nightingale came Jim Rohn, Bob Proctor. From them came Zig Ziglar and all of these guys on down now to some of my contemporaries like Les Brown, who is unbelievable, Eric Thomas, who is unbelievable, Tony Robbins, who is straight sick, and a number of other different people who are operating in this sphere that I operate in. But when I go back and I listen to Earl's explanation of success to me is the most simplest, but it's the most profound. Success is the progressive pursuit of a worthy goal. When you find something in life that's worthy of pursuing and you are pursuing it, you're successful. It's not just the attainment of the goal. That's where so many of us make mistakes. It's not just the attainment of the goal, it's the progression towards the goal. And that's what I'm getting at here. So many people want the promise. Oh man, my Christian brothers and sisters, we talk about some promises. We got the promise of this. He promised the promise. But see, process always precedes promise. Most people want to circumvent the process and obtain the promise. There's no obtainment of the promise without there first being an endurance of the process. That's life. You got a bunch of people who want to be millionaires but don't want to develop the mindset, who don't want to make the sacrifices, who don't want to take the long progressive steps it takes to move from poverty into abundance. Abundance is not something that's exclusive. It's something that is obtained through a progressive mindset that moves you towards something. Success in whatever it is. To me, when I think about abundance, while developing wealth is important to me because I want the resources to be available for me to be impactful, but more importantly, I want to leave resources for my children. While financial abundance is important, when I think of abundance, the first thing I think about are relationships. To me, that's the most important thing to me. And that's to me. I'm not telling you what to think. I'm telling you to think. But to me, relationships are important. So when I think about abundance, I want relationships that I foster, that I serve, to be rich. I want wealthy relationships. I want the relationship with my wife to be rich. I want it to mean something every second of the day. I don't want it to simply exist. I don't want it to just sit there. One of the most powerful books I've ever read. And I'm going to close this out and make this make sense, and it's going to lead into the video on Friday, and we're going to get more off into neurological remapping. How do you actually create these new beliefs that get rid of the limiting beliefs and open up the parameters for you to do unbelievable things? Because the only thing that's stopping you are the beliefs that you can't do it. You either believe you can or you believe you can't, and either way you're right. But here, check this out. What you have to be able to do is, in your mindset, prepare yourself to take the progressive steps to be who you want to. With me, when it comes to abundance, I start with relationships, with a situation. When I look at my wife, I want that to be something. One of the most powerful books I read when I wrote my fourth book was When Your House Is Not a Home. And just thinking about the book writing processes, which is just one thing that I've been engaged and encountered in my life, where I was told after book number one that I wasn't going to be published, that nothing was going to come out of it. Even though it was well written, it wasn't a market for it. And now I look up and I'm literally right now working on book number 20, 19 published, working on book number 20. That is the type of thing I'm talking about. It's just like, you can't tell me no. Matter of fact, if you want to see me do something, tell me I can't do it, and it's going to happen. I can't tell you exactly when, but I can tell you I'm either going to get it done or I'm going to die trying. It's just that simple. It's that mindset that it's not that I can't, it's just when. But anyway, one of the most powerful books I read, and then we're going to kind of bring this to an end, is a book called Sacred Marriage by Gary Thomas. I'm writing this book, When Your House Is Not a Home, to deal with conflict in the marriage. Because again, relationships are important to me. Relationships have always been important to me. When you got strong relationships, you can get through anything. You can get through the disappointment of your business failing, or your business taking a hit, or you having to start over. I've been through that. I'm going through a rebuilding process right now. But when your relationships are tight, but check this out. Gary Thomas's book is Off the Chain. If you haven't read it, I don't care what faith system you come from. It's a book that you can get something out of. But the name of the book is Sacred Marriage. And on the cover of the book, there's this question that totally sets the tone. And I took so much away from that. It says, what if God's intent for marriage wasn't so much to make you happy as it was to make you holy? What if marriage is the greatest sacrifice you will ever have to make, preparing you for all other sacrifices? What if marriage was this one place where you had to determine before going in everything you had to offer, more than you were concerned about what the other person was bringing to the table? What if marriage was this place in which you consistently were being asked to put self aside for the betterment of the whole? What if marriage was this place where you could no longer be selfish? When you enter into a marriage and you start to think about, what am I bringing to the table? How am I servicing this? And it took me back. That question took me back to something my great-grandfather, who was my adopted father, taught me. He said, son, your responsibility as a man is to fill your space. And you heard me share this the other day. What does that mean? That means that every time you walk into a room, every time you shake a person's hand, every time you engage a person, whether it's a group or whether it's an individual, your job is to make sure when you leave that situation that everybody you encountered is better off than they were when you got there. That's how you fill your space. You are never in a greater situation of filling your space than in your marriage. And when you fail to fill your space in your marriage, when you fail to get the concept of why you're really here, you're here to give. And the more abundance that you have, the more you're able to give. The more emotional and psychological security you have, the more you're able to give. The more money you have, the more you're able to give. The more knowledge you have, the more you're able to give. But when you don't have a mindset of giving, you start to lock yourself off. And so you have to have this unbelievable willingness to give. And see, something comes with the willingness to give. There's this thing called gratitude. And what I can tell you now, all of what I'm going to tell you over the next 3 videos will have absolutely no impact if you don't learn how to be grateful. If you don't develop a mindset of gratitude. Am I sitting up saying that you should be thankful because you lost your mate? You should be thankful because you lost your kid, because you lost your parent, or because you lost your job? No. I'm saying wake up in the morning and find that one reason why it's good to be alive. Start there. Start with saying, you know what? I can rebuild. I'm glad and I'm grateful that I have this. I'm glad and I'm grateful that I'm in a situation right now to have this. And then that gratefulness, that sense of gratitude that you develop every morning, the first thing I get up is establish, before I roll out of bed, is I've got to establish a mindset of gratitude. It's the first part of my priming process. I prime myself every day to engage the day because I'm going to meet challenges. I'm going to have people tell me no. I'm going to have people who are going to try to stop me. I'm going to have people who are going to say negative things about me. I'm going to have people who to remind me of who I used to be. I'm going to have all these different things happening in my life. And if I allow those things to influence my thinking, I lose focus. I start to get a negative flow going. My frequency begins to drop. My vibration begins to lower. And I can only resonate with the things in which have the same frequency and same vibration. I can't draw positive people to me. I can't draw people who are elevated, functioning, and successful to me because why? I'm functioning on a low frequency. But when I wake up with a heart of gratitude, what I understand is I'm going to take some hits today. I'm going to have some moments that aren't as what I would like them to be, but at the end of the day, I'm breathing. If I'm breathing, I'm still in the fight. I'm still in the game. I'm still in the game. I'm still in the fight. I can win. And as long as I have the opportunity to win, I will. And that's where I take things from. But it all comes from this mindset of gratitude. But what we're going to talk about is, I want to answer that question as I close out. Why do some experience success at high levels and others don't? It's not because of what they're, it's not because someone's helping them. It's not because they just have some kind of gift that others don't. It's a situation. Every person, and I can tell you this from experience. This doesn't come from a book I've read. This doesn't come from some course I've taken. I've done a bunch of both. But this comes from my experience. In counseling youth and in counseling adults, I've come across people who were at one point declared negligibly mentally retarded, Down syndrome, autism, and other forms of learning disabilities, ADHD, post-traumatic stress disorder, a number of different things I've come across, and I have yet, in the thousands of people that I've encountered, either in groups or in individual situations, in passing, I have yet to encounter one person that doesn't have something unique about themselves, that sets themselves apart, that is unique to their design, that makes them potentially great. I don't care what disadvantage you start with. What matters is what you expose your mind to. Remember, you got to download some stuff into that computer to make it possible to do what you want to do. If all you're downloading into your computer is negative stuff, all you downloading is malware and spyware and all this other stuff, eventually your computer's going to malfunction and you're not going to get the results you want. You're going to get frustrated, probably toss the computer. But if you're downloading the things you need specifically, if you're giving your body, if you want to be a music producer, you need to surround yourself with consistent ideas and creativity, as well as the tools. You need to surround yourself around people who's done it before. You need to surround yourself around people who are going to tell you positive things, reinforce you, tell you where you are, be realistic about where you are, but open up the idea of where you can be. It's not about where you are, it's about the potential of where you can be. Now, you can never have anything beyond who you are. You don't get what you want, you get who you are. If you want something better than what you have, you got to change who you are. Life is about growth. It's about intentional growth. If you don't seek to grow, you won't get what it is you're looking for. You have to seek to grow. You have to look inside of yourself. You've got to be willing to accept criticism, but it's got to be constructive criticism. There's some people that want nothing more than to tear you down. You got to be able to discern the energy. See, there's a person that'll come to you and say, brother, I see what you're doing. Have you thought about this? Have you tried this? Why don't you do that? And you've got to get the ego out of the way long enough to sit up and say, you know what? I never thought of that. Thank you. And then you go back and you work on yourself. It's about changing. It's about growing. It's about seeing what needs to change and changing it. It's about advancing. You can't grow and not grab. See, that's the thing. As you change your perception of life, stop thinking life is happening to you. Stop thinking that all this stuff that you're going through, something is happening to you. It's not happening. It's responding. Life is responding. The universe is responding. Paulo Coelho wrote this unbelievable book in which this kid starts out as a sheep herder and ends up conquering the world, basically. And it has biblical, you know, it alludes to some biblical characters like Melchizedek, but it's about an alchemist, but it's about this little boy. And the theme of this book, and it's the same thing you find in Think and Grow Rich. It's the same thing you find in As a Man Thinketh. It's the same thing you find in The Science of Getting Rich. It's the same thing you find in The Secret, the law of attraction. All of this stuff is there. It's real. It's just a different explanation of how faith works. But what happens is, it says that in this book, the theme in The Alchemist is that once you take an idea about having something or doing something, and you make up in your mind that you can do it, and you make the first step at that moment that you commit to doing it without having any proof other than your belief that it's possible, the universe begins to conspire on your behalf to bring it to you. It literally conspires. And when we get into talking about quantum physics on Saturday, you're going to find out exactly how real that is, how your thoughts literally move the energy in the universe on microscopic levels, and then the more powerful your faith becomes on macro levels. You have the power within you to be everything you want to be, anything that's good, anything that will allow you to give back. is a positive energy. It has the ability, the capacity to raise your level, your frequency, the manner in which you emit energy. You hear people talking about prophecies and psychics and all these different plays on words. I respect it all because everybody has their different way of looking at it. But at the end of the day, those people just have a higher sensitivity to the manner in which the universe releases it. Every idea that's ever been done, every idea in the future, every happening event in the future is in the atmosphere in the universe. It exists, and there's a reason it exists. And I'm going to get to that. We're going to talk about unified fields, zero fields, and all of that in quantum physics on Saturday. And we're going to talk about the presence of God, the mind of God, however you want to call it or whatever you want to say, but at the mind of God, the presence of God, and why even something that's going to happen 500 years from now is literally presence in the energy of the universe right now. And we're going to get into all of that. But what I'm trying to tell you is, if it's something you want to do in life, and that, especially when there's something positive associated to it, make up in your mind to do it and go after it. You're not going to have all the answers, but what you will find is that once you commit to it, providence will move. That's what faith is all about. Anyway, that's it for now. I hope that I was able to drop something on you that mattered. I hope I was able to give you something that you can take with you. But again, this is a modular thing that we're building and we're stacking on. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about how we actually, on Friday, we're going to talk about how we actually build or reconstruct or remap or rewire our brains to deal with the limiting beliefs, get rid of those limiting beliefs, and actually bring in new beliefs. And watch what happens when those new beliefs take place. We're going to talk about the power of vision, when you can envision something, when you can envision. We're going to talk about being able to envision things in ways that produce things that you can't even imagine. It's all possible. It's all real. Nothing mystic about it. It's literally a way of taking what the universe is offering and using it to your benefit in order to benefit others. And when you're doing this at the highest level, you leave a legacy behind you. Some people have left this legacy without understanding how they accessed it and used it. They just knew, if I do this, this happens. I'm the kind of person, I want to know all the little intricate details. And what it has done is it opened up the possibility and opportunity for me to help many people do some pretty nice and exceptional things in their life. I'm going to leave you with this. You were not created for mediocrity. There's nothing mediocre about the Almighty, and the Almighty's never created anything for the purpose of mediocrity. Mediocrity is the abandonment of possibility in seek of comfort, in seek of perceived safety and security, and being risk averse. Rather than take a risk, I'm gonna go over here where I know every day what it's gonna be like. That's not life. That's not living. Live on full. Go out. The risk is always worth the reward. The reward is worth the risk. Sorry. The reward is worth the risk. As I always say, I'm on the down E. I am absolutely going to down E. I'm going to wake up every morning and I'm going to give life everything I have and then some. I'm going to take my lumps and my bruises, but at the end of the day, I'm going to leave a legacy that said I came, I saw, I conquered. That is my only option. When you make up in your mind that you're going to go the distance, you will be surprised at what you're able to accomplish. Thank you guys who dropped in for a moment, who stayed for the entire presentation, whatever it is. But whatever you do, share this video. Give people an opportunity to see what's possible in life. There's so many people who have bought into the idea that suffering is a lot in life and that you're stuck with it. If you're born like this, if you live like this, it's just what it is. No, you have a choice. Every last one of us has a choice of how we're going to live life. And I want you to experience life at the next level. With that being said, I'm out of here. It's awesome. You guys have an unbelievable day. Do something great.